To show you guys a video and I'm uploading this on my YouTube obviously, and I want you to please share this video, comment, like, do everything you can do so that this video can hit the algorithm. You're about to hear a hearing out of in Bergen County from a therapist with 25 years experience who also helps in psychology with prisons of the most violent offenses that have been acted within our society. So this person who's speaking has a lot of experience, and she's going to speak on how that didn't even prepare her for the atrocities and devastation she has witnessed through family court and CPS. You need to watch this video. You need to share this video. And when you guys call CPS, let me just tell you, you are putting that child in danger. Enjoy this video, and I hope this opens your eyes and listen to understand. Peace to God.
Yes, I'm Bandy Lee. I'm from New York City. I will be speaking as an expert as well as someone with personal involvement in the family court of Bergen County, New Jersey.
Could you please tell us your expertise? Your expertise?
I'm a forensic psychiatrist and violence expert with 25 years of experience. I've been in criminal and civil courts as an expert witness in about 200 cases. About 50 of them are in family court.
That'll do it. All right. Please proceed, ma'am.
Just to give a little bit of more background, I am president of the World Mental Health Coalition, co-founder of the Violence Prevention Institute. I was a research fellow of the National Institute of Mental Health, taught at Yale School of Medicine and Yale Law School for 17 years before transferring to the Harvard program in psychiatry and the law. In 2007, I helped co-author the United Nations Secretary General's chapter on violence against children, among other international documents, helping governments to implement prison reform and other violence reduction programs. For clinical practice, I work in maximum security prisons, treating some of the most violent individuals our society produces. Yet, nothing prepared me for family court. We do not ordinarily think of family courts as sites of violence, but by denying, or worse, exploiting the existence of domestic violence and child abuse, family courts have become one of the deadliest places for children and the adults who try to protect them. I commend you for calling these meetings and calling out family court as the national emergency that it is. I have testified before the legislatures of Colorado, New York, Louisiana, Tennessee, and Washington, and I'm very honored to be here. I'll be submitting a more scholarly written testimony for the record, but here I will not mince words. Family courts are a danger to society, and unless dramatically reformed, they need to be abolished altogether for the safety of our children and their loving families. This may sound extreme, but when an institution causes far greater harm than good, indeed sends close to 100,000 children per year to their soul murder, if not actual murder, then such an intervention is necessary. I have the empirical data to back up my claims, which I can get to if there's time. Despite my 25 years as an expert witness for the courts, I did not know about family courts. Since learning about them, I've tried to take as many cases as possible, but while I'm considered a highly qualified expert in criminal and any other court, only in family court have I been unwelcome. In fact, judges often try to find almost any reason not to admit me. This is because they, as a rule, are not looking for qualified experts. They seek poorly trained or compromised so-called experts who will fix the results in the direction they desire. In other words, the opposite direction of which the case should go. Unfortunately, sending children to their abuse, rape, battery, murder, sex trafficking, and pornography production has become a lucrative business. I would not have known about family courts except for my sister's divorce. One moment, her children are thriving under her care with perfect physical and psychological health, and she's praised around the neighborhood for her parenting skills, consulted by other parents and teachers. The next moment, her previously absentee father files for divorce, and her children are seized in a police raid without warning on their legitimately assigned weekend to be together, and the violently abusive father who almost killed each of his 2 children by head injury gets sole custody. And the mother has not seen or heard from them, the children she raised since birth, for the next 4 years. Not even 1 minute. And what is the reason that the family court gave? She was supposedly mentally ill, even though no licensed professional ever raised any concerns. Subsequently, she has been evaluated by 11 world-renowned psychiatric experts, some of them consultants to the United Nations, the U.S. Supreme Court, and the International Criminal Court, who all unanimously said she had excellent mental health and exceptional talent in parenting. But none of this mattered. Only one unlicensed and unqualified associate counselor with a master's degree contradicted them all. And this is the one report the family court judge would accept. In addition to these so-called experts, family courts make use of guardians ad litem. In my sister's case, the guardian ad litem lied or perjured 600 documented times in her case, and even co-conspired with her ex-husband to attempt to cause her demise, putting her in the intensive care unit. But in the end, Judge Jane Galena Mecca only protected her, the guardian ad litem. In fact, the judge now regularly appoints this guardian ad litem, Evelyn Asirios, in almost every case she presides over. For these reasons, we are now pursuing the impeachment of Jane Galena Mecca. But I'm sure this is a familiar story, and it is correct to address this as a systemic problem. After participating in approximately 50 family court cases, I've come to learn that my sister's situation is not at all unusual. Cases may vary widely, but family courts all across the country produce almost the same result when abuse is alleged, which is the vast majority of custody cases. That is, custody is almost invariably taken from the stable, nurturing parent who are well bonded with their children to be given to their abusers. The more clear-cut the case, the more draconian this formula. And the stronger the evidence the good parent presents, the more retaliation they face. I've not once seen supervised visits be applied to the dangerous parent, and if the children resist, as healthy children would, they're sent to reunification camps, which are in truth torture camps, intended to extinguish any drive to resist their own abuse. And the same holds true for reunification therapy. I guess I'm running out of time, so...
Oh, no, ma'am. You have plenty of time. Please proceed.
Thank you. I have often compared family courts to the prisons that I have studied for decades. Medieval barbarism that civilized society cannot imagine happens within them. Those who enter are grievously maltreated, and all manner of human rights violations occur with no accountability because of a lack of transparency. Torture is routine, and even murder goes unpunished. In family courts, judges have the authority to seal their cases, and this essentially gives them star chamber-like secrecy. Without a jury or any oversight, what occurs within is usually unmoored from the law, especially with the exceptional discretion that people have talked about, that family judges have. This was initially granted so that judges could exercise benevolence with vulnerable families, but a 120-year chronicle has shown that it has rather been used for malevolence quite regularly. When tragic deaths happen all too often, the public assumes that there must have been extenuating circumstances or that these institutions are doing their best under difficult circumstances. They do not imagine that family courts actually facilitated the deaths or even forced them on families that mobilized all their resources to prevent. I've come to call family courts anti-courts, where case fixing replaces fact-finding, pseudoscience is given precedence over established science, conflicts of interest replace any semblance of impartiality, and the greatest injustices done to families are committed in the name of justice. If a hospital or clinic were deliberately killing rather than curing people, it would immediately be shuttered. But when courts do this, there's no relief because of judicial immunity, and we have learned that judges cannot be relied upon to hold other judges accountable. Instead, prisons and family courts, because of their secrecy and impunity, have become magnets for violent, sadistic, and psychopathic individuals who relish exercising power over others. Those who do not go along with the culture usually are threatened or ousted. Prison guards may be seen as poorly trained individuals who come from similar backgrounds as the prisoners, but family court players are even more dangerous since they're driven by a $50 to $175 billion industry hidden beneath the power of being called a court. Now there's a bunch of statistics that I could cite. I'll submit it in.
Well, if you
the
would,
record.
just get the statistics to our office, and we'll
Yes.
appreciate that.
I will do so. This is all scientifically supported.
Okay.
The
Thank
public
you.
is unaware of the epidemic of violence occurring through the family courts because judges threaten reporters and journalists as well to control their coverage. When a major magazine published an interview with me, the judge in my sister's case issued an order for them to immediately unpublish the article. When their legal department sternly rebuked the judge for violating the First Amendment, she rather returned to her drawing board and issued a second order. It turned out that even the Washington Post had shamed her 10 years earlier for trying to order the takedown of another article, but because of impunity, she remains undaunted, and her unconstitutional orders continue. The end result is that this magazine and others vow never to cover family court stories again. The United
Well, that's a
Nations...
mistake.
Excuse me?
As we've said earlier, Justice Brandeis.
That's right.
How about a little sunshine on this? And frankly, ma'am, you put more sunshine on this than many of the people that have testified over the last 3 hearings.
Well, I've been
and
in a lot
we're-
of cases, and I've examined all the evidence. It's not insufficiency of evidence. It's not ignorance or incompetence. It's quite despairingly deliberate.
I appreciate that. And we really have run out of time with you. I'd let you talk the rest of the day if I could get away with it. But we do have a couple questions for you, all right? At least I know everybody else is chomping at the bit. One major question for me is, in your professional opinion, with all that you've heard and what you've clearly lived through, and I presume that your sister's case is out of New York? Or
New Jersey, actually, Bergen
New Jersey,
County.
okay. Same to us out in the West. Do you think or believe that judges have been taken in by this psycho, I'm going to call it psychobabble, but you called it pseudoscience, pseudopsychology, almost in a Svengali kind of way, where they just totally disregard a mountain of evidence in front of them for the shiny object in the room that is somehow overtaken the thought process of the judge. Could you speak to that?
I would say the direction was actually in the opposite, that judges go looking for experts who will give them the whatever theory that will allow them to give the children to their abusers. And, parental alienation, for example, is one which has been used as a tactic to deflect from and deny abuse allegations. I actually say that it's a pretext for predatory alienation of the good parent.
Okay. Have you ever heard of AFCC?
Yes. Unfortunately, they are quite driven by the parental alienation theory, and I believe that is because it brings them profit.
Well, all right, you jumped right to the next question. Good. I'll go ahead and put it out there. It occurs to me that this organization, from everything that I've seen, read, really has a profit motive that it's driven by, not necessarily a best interest of the child. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, very distressingly, not only is this prevalent in all 50 U.S. states, I will say, and I've personally been in cases in about 20 to 30 states, and it has been used as a business model, exported abroad, to the point where the United Nations Human Rights Council put out a major report in 2023 alerting this family court problem as a public health crisis because of the model that's been exported from the U.S. abroad.
I presume that that report is online, that we can pull it
Yes.
down?
Okay.
If you would, could you give us the
I will.
report
Yeah.
title to that so that we can pull that
Yes,
in?
it's by the UN Special Rapporteur on violence against children and women.
Okay, we'll definitely make that part of our report. One last question I have before I turn it over to my colleagues. Have you heard of something called COBE?
Yes.
What's your opinion of court-ordered behavioral intervention?
I find it to be coercive. In fact, I call it torture, and it is intended to inculcate in children that they that what they see, heard, and have experienced is untrue, and it's a form of thought reform, in my view.
You know where